Hi and welcome to this week's Wu Wei Wisdom Life Lessons teaching. It's great to be back with you all. Now, have you ever wondered why money just seems to slip through your fingers, no matter how hard you work or carefully plan? Well, today we are going to be deep diving into your relationship with money, and that's your spiritual and emotional relationship with money, so that you can improve the flow of finances in your life. Okay, David. Now, I know you work with a lot of your one-to-one clients on money issues and getting a healthy, energetic relationship with money. And you approach this subject from a kind of Taoist and spiritual perspective. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes, it'd be good, Alex, because the way you introduce this section is very interesting because you use two different words. And that's something that you should think about. How do you think of money? Do you think it's material? Do you think it's a spiritual flow? Or do you see it more as emotion? And I would say a lot of people see it more emotionally. And the problem is when you see money as more emotionally, who does that invite into the party? The inner child. And so the inner child then will start wanting more and not being happy with what it's got.
Yeah, so I was going to ask, when you say seeing money emotionally, can you give me some examples of that?
Well, emotionally would be what we would call in our model CCJ.
Okay.
Comparing. Oh, they've got a bigger car than me. They've got a bigger house than me. I'm not earning enough. Criticizing, look at me, look at my finances, I'm never doing enough, or being judgmental. I should do more, I should work harder, I should be able to achieve this. Look where I am now. This is what I get a lot with clients. I should be in a different position than what I am now, judging yourself. And so what that does, because I see money more as an energy, as a flow, because money should flow into us and then flow out of us. Like being in good health, we should be in financial good health. Mm-hmm. And so if you're thinking about, say, how are you in good health? You say, well, it's what I eat, it's how I exercise, it's how I sleep. That keeps me in good health. And this should be the same for money. How do you view money? How should it come in and work for you? And how should you co-create with money? But so many people see it in a totally different way.
So, David, what I've heard you say there is that if we're comparing ourselves, if we're judging ourselves negatively, if we're criticizing ourselves in relation to money or finances or status, personal status related to money, that messes up the energy flow. In our model, those thoughts and those beliefs, that self-talk, creates red light emotional feelings of anxiety, stress, hopelessness, striving, or all those kind of negative emotional feelings. So that pattern, you say, then affects the energy of money and its flow in our life. Are you also saying then that people who are worried because they're extremely short of money, striving to cover the finances for their family, things like that, and then they have anxiety, stress, pressure, painful, uncomfortable emotions because of that? Is that the same thing going on, or is it different?
So I think what you just explained is very serious. So if a client has got money worries, looking after his family, paying the next mortgage, meeting the next bill, as you just rightly say, just as I say that, if you're experiencing that, can you experience that feeling that's created, that tightness, that locked into one way of thinking? I'm very sorry if you're in that position. So if I was working with you, I'd try and get you to drop your shoulders, step back, and look at the wider picture. Now, how can we find a way out of this situation? So a lot of my clients would say to me, I can't change. This is how it is. This is how it's going to be. I can see my future in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years is going to be the same. And if you say and think things like that, you're locking yourself into that pattern. Now, I can't offer each one a solution until I hear the circumstances. But what I will say, there will be a way out. I've got a wonderful saying that comes right from my Taoist masters, and my translation is, this too will pass.
Yeah.
So this too will pass. So we acknowledge the financial situation. We acknowledge it is very grave. I give my condolences. I'm very sorry that you're in this situation. Now, how can we get out of it? So a lot of people will do something like, I'll work harder. And about 15 or 20 years ago, there was a wonderful slogan that Nike shoes came out with. Don't work harder, work smarter. So sometimes it's not about working harder. It's about sitting back and thinking, what is a smarter way? I'll give you an example. A client was working with, got made redundant, and he just saw what you described. He couldn't meet his mortgage. He wanted I mean, it was horrific. It affected me when he told me all of the negatives that he could perceive on the horizon. But when we worked out, and it took a few times, it worked out that he started to work for himself.
Yeah.
He looked at this as an opportunity. He looked at what he could do, what his skills was, and became self-employed. And then he found a way out, not the way that he was doing, but finding a different way.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying this applies to everybody, because I would need to know each individual case. But what I am saying is general. If you're just locked in the same thought pattern, you will get the same results. You have to be able to widen your perception.
Yeah.
This falls into the teaching of Taoism.
So I guess what you're saying here, David, is, of course, people will have different practical financial starting points. Some could be very difficult and challenging, some less so. But in all cases, universally, it's about our mindset and our thought patterns and beliefs in relation to money that can either enable us to flow out of challenging and difficult situations, or can further sabotage us. So further hold us back, further lock us in, further constrain us. And those patterns are related to the comparing, criticizing, being judgmental. I guess also then things like catastrophizing, always assuming the worst. Like, if I earn money, I'm going to lose it. Money's a bad thing. Money's destructive. There's scarcity. Lots of negative thought patterns around money misrepresents what money is, because, as you say, it's an energy that should flow. But those negative beliefs and thought patterns have a compounding effect on the, let's say, the ill health of money and finances in your life.
Yes, because everything you just described, Alex, you're almost describing the inner child. And this is what happens, that inner child psyche, that mindset of our younger self comes into this situation. So yes, I acknowledge this is a very serious and critical situation. Say if you got made redundant or you lost money. But then to bring in everything that you said, oh, what will people think? How can I tell people? How can I tell people that I haven't got a job? How can I do this? And what you're doing, instead of widening your perceptions, you're actually narrowing your perceptions. And what the client will say, well, I'll work harder on what I'm doing. Instead of saying, well, just before we do that, let's take a breath. Let's step back. Now let's have a look at your attributes. Let's have a look at your skill set. Let's see what you could do. It may not be possible. It may be possible. But how could we look at this in a totally different way? But if you're always striving to say, for instance, I want more money. I've got to earn money tomorrow. I must earn this tomorrow. You're always restricting yourself. Or I must do better. My mother or my father will be disappointed in me if I'm not bringing in a salary, if I'm not a white collar worker, if I'm not doing this. So stepping back and giving this the opportunity to address your skill set, to look at the wider picture, and to deal with the inner child. I tell you, the number one thing that I find with clients is not because they can't earn money. It's not because they haven't got the skills. It's not because they haven't got the skill set. It's because they believe they don't deserve it. So believing that you don't, do you deserve the salary? Do you think you are worth going in or trying a different job? So if I suggest, well, you've got the skill set, why don't you try for this job? Oh, I wouldn't try for that job because I'll never get it. They'll have that type of attitude. Again, it's very difficult because each individual case will be specific for that person, but I'm giving you the general thing. So I would say, well, you got this skill set, why don't you try that? And they say, well, no, it's not worth it. I would never get it.
So David, what my take on this is, it often with the clients you work with, it's not necessarily about their financial standing that's causing the problem. A lot of people we know of actually very wealthy, financially secure people, and yet their relationship with money is extremely unhealthy. They're always worried about losing money.
Yeah.
They're always worried that money is going to create problems, and actually oftentimes they have more of an unhealthy struggle with money and finances despite their wealth than people who have got far less wealth but have a much easier, more flowing relationship with money. So you mentioned then about someone believing, I don't deserve. Yeah. I don't deserve a good job which would allow me a good salary. That's self-doubt. A lot of these core beliefs which affect our relationship with money come from childhood. And that then is that inner child part of our psyche which we carry into adulthood. Can you talk a little bit about the sort of environment, the sort of messages in our childhood environment that we may have got in relation to money and finances and wealth, which have profoundly affected some of your clients?
Yeah, so what I would say, Alex, and we do in general, and I understand you might be screaming at us to say, well, my position is different because we can't deal with a specific case. We're trying to deal with general. But what I am saying is money situation can trigger very powerfully the inner child psyche, the way you look at life. And then as you said, what is the inner child? And it's normally the type of childhood that we went through. So, for instance, I'll give you extreme cases. If you went through a childhood where your parents were always striving, they never had enough, that the cupboards were always empty, they were always making do, or your mother was always looking over the road and saying, oh, look at them, they've got a better house than us, or they're happier than us, or they're richer than us. That type of teaching kind of slips into our kind of way of thinking. It becomes our belief system. Or if your parents or your environment was saying that you can only be happy if you have a certain amount of money, that's like the donkey and the carrot again. You're always striving for more money. You are looking for money to give you happiness. And so you're confusing that real happiness comes from you. It's regardless of the money. So when you've been brought up where if money has been an issue, then that can easily become a trigger to constrict your way of thinking about yourself and the flow of this financial energy. So this goes back to what we said at the beginning. Money is an energy. Finances are an energy. They should flow seamlessly, harmoniously. Money will not make you happy. Now, I know a lot of you haven't gotten the money are scolding at me now and say, you're joking. If I had £1,000 or £10,000 or £1 million, I'd be extremely happy. I can guarantee you, I got clients who are very rich. And money does not bring you happiness. In fact, as you say, they become more concerned about losing it, or how do they make it even work harder, or how do they even have more money. And so what I'm trying to teach for you to think about on this teaching is don't look at money as material. Look at it as an energy. How is it flowing in your life? If it's not flowing in the way that you think is beneficial to you and your family, this is what I'm trying to inspire you to do now. Take a breath, drop the shoulders, and just think about it like, I don't know, a stream or a river, and think about what is stopping that stream, because there's no shortage of money in the universe. What is stopping that stream of financial good health and energy flowing through my life? Why don't I attract that? Why aren't I in line with that flow? And that really is the work. And as we've said, in my experience, this will normally come from childhood, what we call the inner child. You could call your ego or your child way of thinking about things. And that's what you've got to change, because you have to get into alignment with that flow. You have got the skill set. You are absolutely awesome. This money is not trying to make you suffer. It's just a misalignment. And that really is the skill of this teaching. You've got to understand, why are you misaligning? Again, I get clients, well, it's bad luck. I always have bad luck. Think about what it is that creates that. The universe is not against you. The universe doesn't plot to make it bad for you. There's something in the way that you could say, well, I was brought up in poverty. I was brought up in a poor neighborhood. That's right. I'm not denying that. That's not the question. What's stopping you now from being connected to the flow of money?
And so just one thing to ask you, David, before we move on, about how we reconnect, how we realign to this flow, how we change our relationship, what steps we can take. When you say money flowing in, I think most people understand that. So money coming in through income or earnings or whatever. But then you say it should flow in and out, flow in and out, flow in and out. A lot of people would be like, no, I don't want money to flow out. That's not the right thing, because that's losing money. That's losing money. When you say flow out, and that being healthy, a healthy cycle, in practical, real terms, what does that mean?
So in practical terms, that would mean investing your money, making sure it's earning money, not sitting in a bank account, not earning money, perhaps investing it in property, not investing it in things that's going to lose money, but making sure that you've got a good portfolio of investments. So when you put your savings into something, that too is going to earn money. So you don't earn money and then go and buy something that is just going to waste the money, because it's not flowing through you. You're almost diverting it, saying, well, I can't think of an example. Well, if I bought that £1,000 suit, then I'm going to feel great.
Yeah.
Because you've just almost lost £1,000, because you should be feeling great without the £1,000 suit.
And would it also be true to say things like, for example, investing in your children or children's education, or investing in a home which is going to help nurture your family?
Yes.
That is also an appropriate, healthy flow, because it's like it's nourishing in a healthy, considered way other parts of your life, of your family's life, and things like that.
Yes, to all of those you've just said. Mm-hmm. But the whole point is to get that flow. So to have the money to invest in whatever you said, you've got to attract it to you first. It's got to come through you and out. Through you and out. So if you do not believe you're good enough, or you're scared to go for a promotion, or you're scared to change careers, or you're scared to try something new, just think of what you're doing. I'm blocking.
Yeah.
I'm not allowing myself to do something new. Oh, I've been at this job for 20 years and it gives me a living, but it's not really extending me. Well, why don't we look at something else? Oh, no, I couldn't look at as anything else. Why? Why can't you look at something else? Why can't you use your skills in a different way? And then I say, well, I want money now. It's got to happen now. It's got to be immediate. Or it's the unknown. I don't know what that's like. So it's about... It's the fundamentals: researching, trusting yourself, seeing whether you're capable, believing it as in yourself, as you just said, not doubting yourself. That word doubt, that's like a block for the financial flow of money. And that's what we've got to eliminate. And we've got to look at things in a realistic, honest, have integrity, look at things, but widen the perception. There is no shortage of money. If it's not flowing into you, then we have to make the adjustments to make it flow into you, to see how you can align with your skill set, your creativity, who you are, so you can align.
And David, that kind of touches into something I wanted to finish on. This, I guess, faulty belief, misalignment, that we confuse money with our worth. And it's like money is, for some people, money defines their identity and their status is their identity. And so it puts an awful lot of pressure, an awful lot of importance, an awful lot of weight on the state of their finances. And it really screws up your belief system, your attitude towards yourself and your self-belief. And it, I guess it completely screws up this flow of energy of money that we're talking about.
That's such a wonderful question, Alex, because you're absolutely right. And remember, I said at the beginning that you've got to change whether you see it as a material. So people will see money as a material, and then they see their own worth and value as also material. So immediately now you've got a misalignment. You either believe that you, sitting here listening to this teaching, have innate, inherent worth and value, regardless of your financial state, or your financial state dictates your worth and value. And this is the question. I'm saying to you, my belief is clear. We all have innate worth and value, regardless of your current financial situation. Your financial situation should align with your innate worth and value, not the other way around. And that's what creates the block, because you're looking always material. Now, if you do not believe you have value or you're worthy, how can you widen your perception? How can you say, I'm just thinking of I've always enjoyed doing art, and I said, well, why don't you try, you could do that in the part-time, why don't you see if you can sell your art? And as other people wouldn't like it. How do you know unless you try? Why don't you just do a little exhibition and try believing in your artwork? And now she's a professional artist. And so, you see, this connection that we're finishing on, I think, is the strongest connection, is whether you believe you have you have innate worth and value. And I'm going to use what I say. I think you know what I'm going to say. You would not pick up a newborn baby and say, you have no worth and value because you haven't got a bank account. The baby has innate worth and value, and so do you. And then you have to align the flow of money that aligns with that. Then there would be no doubt. There would be no, I don't deserve it. That wouldn't come into it at all. Yeah. I'm never, oh my goodness, I'm no good with money. Well, what does that mean? I've never been any good with money. What does that mean? It's a flow. It means I don't trust myself. And again, you see, we could go on, and you see how money is almost like the trigger of so many things that we talk about in our teachings, because it will bring out the inner child. The inner child will like money because it sees it as material, and then it can compare. It will look at the balance sheet. Oh, look at my bank statement like this year, and look what it was last year. Oh, it's gone down. And you forget you've invested in this or done that or done something else. It just likes that comparison. This is the inner child talking.
Yeah, I mean, I can see there's really some very useful practical exercises that listeners can do here in terms of writing out the self-talk, the kind of inner dialogue scripts that are going on in our head around money, finances, earning, self-worth, career, status, identity, and money, all of those things to see whether there is self-doubt, whether there is criticism, whether there is judgment, and all those things. And almost, stop ourselves in a tracks and then do that deeper work, which, as you say, a lot of this comes down to not valuing ourselves as in our inherent value. A lot of it comes down to spotting the inner child narrative, which is perhaps clinging to stories around money that we picked up from our childhood about scarcity, not deserving, the family's always going to be poor, money is an issue of shame, I'm never going to be good enough. And really getting clear on what is an authentic, aligned way of having a relationship with money and an inner dialogue with money, and what is completely led by the ego and the inner child and old unhealthy beliefs.
And it might be worth us doing a series on this, Alex, because what you just said, you see, you could do a whole video on shame.
Yeah.
Shame. You see how money is attached to shame. Let me give you this one example. If you got made redundant, does that make your value and your worth less? I would say a lot of my clients would say yes. Mm-hmm. They don't want me. They've got rid of me. Therefore, my value is less. Therefore, I'm not worthy. And it doesn't. That's the whole point. Because if you have that mindset, oh, my value is now diminished, this now creates the block in the financial flow. You are now trying to look at something from a different point of view. It doesn't affect your value at all. And if you look at then what you're going to move on to, then you're very restricted if you think now your value is less. Or as Alex has just said, I'm shamed. I can't tell anybody I've just been made redundant. You see how it absolutely restricts you.
Wonderful. Thank you, David. So I think the message here really is if we change our mindset and our relationship around money and self-worth, then it will shift the flow of money in our life.
And I would say it would open the opportunities. And here's the problem with money. If you're going through a bad patch series, it will change. This will pass. It will pass. Now, in this path, I know this is very difficult for you, and I'm very compassionate. I'm sorry that you're going through this. But now take a breath, step back, and look at your alternatives. And if that little voice comes into your head and tells you to doubt, you're not good enough, you can't cope, there's something about you, you're not worthy, don't let that interfere with the flow of financial money into your life. It is an energy. It should flow through your life.
Wonderful. Thank you, David. And I will put links in the show notes to related teachings that will help you with this topic. As I said, David works every week with clients all around the world via Zoom video call on exactly these sorts of issues. If you'd like to learn more about David's consultations, I will put a link to those in the show notes. If you have enjoyed this teaching, please do like, comment, subscribe, and share it with someone else who you think it may also benefit. David writes a free Substack blog every week with lots of really useful, practical, spiritual, emotional teachings in it. If you'd like to subscribe to David's blog, also check out the link for that in the show notes. We look forward to sharing with you again very soon. Bye-bye.